So we've been wanting to explore this idea of faith,
Yeah.
right? And not just like in a religious context, but as this driving force in our lives.
Yeah.
So today, we're going deep, deep into a fascinating chapter of the Bhagavad Gita,
Okay.
chapter 17, to see what this ancient text can reveal.
And this chapter is really interesting. It doesn't just talk about faith.
Right.
It actually breaks down this idea that there are different types of faith and that each of those is connected to our underlying nature.
Okay, now that's a concept I haven't really encountered before. I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
So we're talking about how the Bhagavad Gita categorizes faith.
Right.
And have those categories actually play out in our actions.
Exactly. The text uses these three qualities, sattva, rajas, and tamas. To explain the different ways that faith can manifest, you can think of them like almost like these fundamental forces that shape everything we do.
So how do these forces actually show up in our lives? Paint me a picture.
Well, let's take the example of charity, something that the Bhagavad Gita discusses in this chapter.
Okay.
A person with strong sattvic faith, which is rooted in this selfless duty, might give to charity simply because they believe it's the right thing to do.
Right.
Their faith is in the act itself.
No strings attached. It's about the pure intention of giving. So what about someone with more rajasic tendencies?
A rajasic person, their faith is often tied to their actions, bringing some kind of reward or recognition.
Okay.
Their charity might be driven by this desire for a good reputation or even some future gain. It reveals their faith in action as a means to an end.
It's fascinating how this one concept, faith, can express itself in such different ways.
Yeah.
What about tamasic faith? Does the Bhagavad Gita even consider that a thing?
That's where it gets really insightful. The text actually talks about actions done without true faith.
Okay.
And it calls them asat, meaning they're essentially empty, lacking real significance. So a tamasic person might go through the motions of charity, but their heart wouldn't be in it.
So it's almost like they're going through the motions out of obligation, not from a genuine place of faith.
Exactly. And what's really powerful is this idea doesn't just apply to charity. The Bhagavad Gita uses the three qualities of sattva, rajas, and tamas to explain how our underlying nature influences our actions across the board, from the food we eat to the way we practice self-discipline.
Okay, so we're seeing a pattern here. Let's talk about food. What's the connection between these qualities and what we choose to eat?
Well, according to the text, each of these qualities has a certain type of food associated with it.
Okay.
So someone with strong sattvic qualities, for example, is drawn to pure, wholesome foods. Things like fresh fruits and vegetables, foods that are prepared mindfully.
Right.
Their faith is in nourishing their body and mind.
So it's not just about clean eating, but about the intention behind it too.
Yes.
What about the rajasic approach to food?
A rajasic person, their faith tends to be more about experiencing the world through their senses.
Okay.
So they might gravitate towards spicy foods, stimulating flavors, things that provide that quick burst of enjoyment.
Seeking that intensity, even if it comes with a side of heartburn.
Right.
And then there's the tamasic approach. I'm guessing this is where we find those less than healthy choices.
You could say that. Tamasic tendencies are associated with inertia and a lack of awareness.
Okay.
So when it comes to food, someone with a tamasic nature might choose what's convenient over what's nourishing.
Right.
Think processed foods, leftovers that have seen better days.
Yeah.
Their faith, or lack thereof, is reflected in their lack of discernment.
It's like they're on autopilot, not really present with their choices. This whole concept is giving me a lot to think about in terms of my own habits. So we've talked about charity and food. What other areas of life do these qualities influence?
Well, the Bhagavad Gita also talks about how these qualities, these different types of faith, show up in our practice of tapas.
Now, when I hear tapas, I think of extreme self-discipline, maybe even a bit of self-punishment. Is that accurate?
That's a common misconception. The way the Bhagavad Gita talks about tapas is more about cultivating self-discipline, refining our thoughts and actions through practices like meditation or setting healthy boundaries.
Okay.
It's about aligning yourself with a greater purpose.
Okay, so how does our dominant quality or our dominant type of faith influence how we approach something like meditation?
Someone with a strong sattvic nature might approach meditation with a sense of quiet dedication.
Okay.
A desire for inner growth and connection to something greater. Their faith is in the transformative power of stillness and self-reflection.
It's a very inward journey. What about someone with more rajasic energy?
Their faith might be more focused on achievement and conquering challenges. So they might approach meditation as a way to improve focus, boost willpower, or even achieve a sense of superiority. It's about pushing their limits.
There's that desire for, like, tangible results.
Right.
And what about the tamasic approach to tapas, if there even is one?
There is, but it's often misdirected. Someone with tamasic tendencies might engage in self-discipline out of fear or a desire to punish themselves. Their actions aren't rooted in faith, but in a sense of negativity or self-sabotage.
So it's almost like they're using tapas as a way to reinforce their own limitations rather than break free from them.
Precisely, and that's a key takeaway from this whole discussion. Our actions, even seemingly positive ones like charity or self-discipline, are infused with the quality of our faith. And the Bhagavad Gita suggests that without that genuine inner connection, without aligning our actions with our highest understanding, our efforts might not have the impact we hope for.
That's a powerful thought. So understanding these three qualities, these different types of faith, is crucial to, like, understanding ourselves and our place in the world. But what I'm curious about is it about trying to, like, eliminate certain qualities and become purely sattvic beings?
That's a great question, and it gets to the heart of the Bhagavad Gita's message. It's not about trying to eliminate parts of ourselves.
Okay.
It's rather about cultivating awareness and making conscious choices that align with our highest good.
So it's more about finding balance and striving for that,
Yeah.
like sattvic harmony.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that all three qualities are part of the human experience. We all have elements of sattva, rajas, and tamas within us. The key is to understand how they're showing up in our lives and to make choices that nourish the sattvic qualities within us. It's like tending a garden. You can't expect to just plant seeds and walk away.
Right.
You have to nurture the soil, provide sunlight and water, and weed out what doesn't serve the growth you're seeking.
I love that analogy. It's about creating the right conditions for those positive qualities to flourish.
It's exactly like tending a garden. And this actually brings us to another interesting aspect of this chapter.
Yep.
Remember we were talking about how actions without faith are considered asat, meaningless?
Yes, it really made me stop and think about, like, my own motivations for things.
Well, the Bhagavad Gita offers this powerful tool, right? For infusing our actions with meaning, for aligning them with something greater.
Okay.
And that tool is the chanting of O Tat Estat.
Okay, I've heard those syllables before, but I'll admit I'm really curious to, like, understand their deeper significance.
Yeah, they're not just random sounds, that's for sure. Each syllable carries really profound meaning,
Okay.
pointing to a different aspect of the divine.
All right, my all ears, break it down for me.
Okay, so OM is considered like the primordial sound of creation,
Okay.
representing that ultimate reality from which everything arises.
Okay.
Tati, meaning that, points to the eternal, unchanging nature of the divine.
Okay.
And SA represents truth, existence, pure being.
So it's like this three-part affirmation, the source of the divine, its essence, and its manifestation in the world.
Exactly. And what's truly fascinating is that the Bhagavad Gita suggests that by chanting these words with, focused intention, we can actually purify our actions. It's about consciously connecting ourselves to that higher vibration.
That's quite a concept. So it's about, like, infusing our actions with sat, with that pure, true essence.
Yes, it's about bringing that awareness, that mindfulness into everything we do. Think back to the garden analogy. Instead of letting our actions, grow wild, fueled by unconscious desires, we're intentionally cultivating this connection to something higher.
So it's not just about, like, going through the motions, but about approaching our actions from a more conscious, connected place.
Precisely. And the beauty of it is you don't have to, walk around chanting Om Tat Sati all day long.
Right.
Though you certainly could.
I might try it just to, like, see what happens.
The real key is integrating these syllables into your spiritual practice, whether it's through meditation, chanting, or even just pausing before you act to remember that connection to something larger than yourself.
It's like hitting that, like, mental reset button.
Yes.
Shifting from a place of, like, ego to a place of deeper awareness.
Yes. And when we do that, we start, naturally making choices that are more in alignment with our highest good. We naturally gravitate towards those sattvic qualities we've been discussing.
It's like we're choosing to water the seeds of our, like, better nature, so to speak.
I like that. And remember, it's a continual process. There will be times when we, slip back into old habits, when those rasic or tamasic tendencies take over. But the more we practice this awareness, the more we strengthen that connection to our sattvic nature.
It's about progress, not perfection, right? We're all constantly, like, learning and growing.
Absolutely, and that's what makes this journey so interesting. It's not about becoming some, like, idealized version of ourselves, but about embracing the fullness of who we are with all of our qualities.
So to bring this back to our listeners, what's one, like, practical thing they can start doing today to apply this wisdom in their own lives?
I think the most powerful practice is simply to start paying attention to the why behind your actions. Before you eat, before you speak, before you do anything, pause for a moment and ask yourself, what's motivating me right now? Is this coming from a place of sattva, rajas, or tamas?
It's like holding up a mirror to our motivations,
Yeah.
becoming more conscious of the, like, forces that are driving us.
Exactly. And even if you realize that your motivation isn't as pure as you'd like it to be, that simple act of awareness is a step in the right direction.
It's about awareness, not judgment.
You got it. It's about recognizing that we have the power to choose how we show up in the world, moment by moment, and that's a truly empowering realization.
It's like we're not just, like, passive passengers along for the ride.
Mhm.
We can actually choose the direction of our lives.
Precisely. And the more we tap into that power of choice, the more we align ourselves with our highest potential.
Mm.
This whole conversation reminds me of that quote by Gandhi. Your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny.
What a perfect way to sum it up.
Mhm.
This chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is essentially a roadmap for, like, understanding how our inner world shapes our outer reality. It
Mhm.
really drives home that point, like, we're not just reacting to life. We're actively creating it through our choices,
Yeah.
even the ones that we make unconsciously.
Exactly. And the Bhagavad Gita is like this, ancient guidebook
Right.
offering wisdom that can help us make those choices more consciously. It encourages us, not to get discouraged by those times when we slip up,
Right.
but to see them as opportunities for growth.
So it's about embracing the journey, bumps and all,
Yeah.
and realizing that even those bumps can teach us something.
Precisely. Remember, we all have that sattvic essence within us.
Right.
It's about nurturing that essence, allowing it to guide our actions, and trusting that it'll lead us in the right direction.
This entire deep dive has given me so much to ponder, from the different types of faith to the power of chanting to the idea that, like, our inner world truly does shape our reality.
And I hope it's empowered you as well, because the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita isn't meant to, stay confined to ancient texts.
Right.
It's meant to be lived, explored, and applied in our modern lives.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this exploration of faith and its power to, like, shape our actions, we'd like to leave you with this question to contemplate. If you were to look at your life as a reflection of the three qualities, sattva, rajas, and tamas, which one would you say is the most prominent in your actions, in your interactions with the world?
Yeah.
And, more importantly, is that the quality you want to be leading with? Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.